So this year, somehow, I have managed to fall into a Jane Austen-shaped hole, and now I can't seem to get myself back out of it again. A lot of my time this year so far has been spent living with Jane Austen and with the Jane Austen peripheral world. So I thought I would make a whole video dedicated to telling you just about my Jane Austen year so far, and it's only 2 months into the year. So this is going to comprise a little bit of everything that I have already consumed Jane Austen-wise, and then everything that I am looking forward to consuming in the coming year, or the rest of the year at least. I started the year off strong when I picked my 26 alphabetical classics that I wanted to read in 2026. The first one I picked obviously was A, and I picked Jane Austen, and since I have read Pride and Prejudice, which is her most popular book, I decided to go to the next most popular, which is Sense and Sensibility. So I read Sense and Sensibility in January, and as soon as I finished Sense and Sensibility, I decided to watch the film adaptation, the 1995 film adaptation, with Emma Thompson, Kate Winslet, Hugh Grant, and Alan Rickman in the starring roles, or in the main roles, if you will. But that was not enough for me. Nope, it wasn't. After watching Sense and Sensibility, I somehow stumbled upon a behind-the-scenes video of Emma Thompson creating a new Sense and Sensibility adjacent work of literature in the form of an audiobook, or a full cast audiobook, written by Rebecca Humphries, entitled Becoming Meg Dashwood. And this audiobook chronicles Margaret Dashwood's kind of life and coming out into society and growing up into adulthood, and follows her quite far into her life, I think probably until her 50s. And it was a very interesting take on the story, I think. Obviously not very much is known about Margaret Dashwood in the Sense and Sensibility book itself, because for most of the story, Margaret Dashwood isn't around. Margaret, or at least when Eleanor and Marianne are in London, I'm assuming. They only ever say in town, so I'm assuming in town means in London. Margaret Dashwood is not with them. Margaret Dashwood is at home with her mother in the country, in their little country home, which is not so little after all, but in their terms, it's a little country home. So for most of the book, and sort of the movie, even though she does feature a lot more in Emma Thompson's movie adaptation than she does in the book, she still doesn't feature all that much, and as a result, we really don't know very much about her. But Rebecca Humphries took it upon herself to write a version of Margaret Dashwood's potential life. And I listened to it as an audiobook. It's only available as an audiobook. It's an Audible original, which I'm not all that happy about, but so I listened to that. And you might think, wow, that's quite a lot of Jane Austen. You maybe want to take a break. But no, my brain doesn't work that way. I, long time ago, found a picture on Pinterest of a light switch, or that someone had drawn of a light switch. And the caption on the picture was, "This is how my brain works." And the top of the light switch, where you would normally find on, it says obsessed. And then at the bottom of the light switch, where you normally find off, it says utterly uninterested. And that is exactly how my brain works. When my brain gets into an obsession with a thing, a certain thing that I'm really interested in, whether it be a person, whether it be an era, whether it be maybe a specific TV show or a movie or a writer or an actor or something, I go all in. not always for a very long amount of time. Sometimes it's a very fleeting obsession. Sometimes it's like a week-long obsession and I'm done with it. This one turning out to be a little bit longer of an obsession than just a week. So far it's been 2 months and I'm still interested in the Jane Austen world and loving everything that I can find about it, or every adjacent and peripheral piece of media that I can consume. So on that note, sometime in 2025, the BBC created, I don't really want to say they created it, funded, if you will, a new miniseries pertaining to Jane Austen called Miss Austen, which is about Cassandra Austen, Jane Austen's older sister. I think she was the older sister. Yes, Jane Austen's older sister, Cassandra, and her sort of a little bit like of her life, but mostly about the fact that Cassandra Austen, after Jane Austen's death, sort of became the person who had to look after her legacy. And one of the choices that she made was to burn the majority of Jane Austen's letters that she ever wrote to her friends. So she burned most of her correspondence with everyone that she knew and only left a few letters. I think from all of the information that I've gathered, there are about 100 letters left of Jane Austen's correspondence throughout her lifetime with her friends. And what the series tries to convey, or what their idea behind why Cassandra Austen did this, is because she was trying to make Jane Austen's legacy about the books that she wrote and not about her private life or her private thoughts and opinions on the people in her life and about maybe the general society. She wanted Jane Austen's legacy to be about about her creative works, essentially. And so this series is about that, essentially. And I think it is such a brilliantly made series, such good actors. One of my favorite actors is in it, is Keeley Hawes. That's actually how I came to know about the project, because I like to go and scroll on people's IMDb pages every now and again and see what projects they're in that are upcoming. And I saw the trailer for Miss Austen on YouTube, and I saw that both Keeley Hawes and Rose Leslie are starring in it, and I like both of them. I think both of them are really great actresses, so I was instantly interested to know more. I watched it, I loved it, I recommend it to everybody who has access to the BBC or to PBS Masterpiece. It's also on PBS Masterpiece, I think. I watched it on a streaming website platform, if you will, called Arte, A-R-T-E, and it is, I think, pretty much available across Europe. It's free to watch, and it's a streaming service that focuses on culturally important media, if you will. So they had Miss Austen on there, luckily for me, because iPlayer isn't available in Germany unless I use a VPN, and even then I think it's iffy, it still doesn't always work. I actually don't even know if it's available on iPlayer, but you could possibly find it on BBC iPlayer or on PBS Masterpiece if you wanted to watch it, which I highly recommend that you do. A while ago, let's say, not that long ago actually, maybe at most 3 weeks ago, I want to say, I saw a trailer for a short film entitled Jane Austen's Period Drama. And when I tell you that this is exactly the kind of short film and comedy, it's a comedy. This is exactly the kind of short film and kind of rom-com comedy, dark comedy that I like. I so thoroughly enjoyed watching this short film. It has been nominated for an Oscar. It is really, really rare that comedy short films get nominated for Oscars, but this one has been nominated for an Oscar, and it so thoroughly deserves its Oscar nomination. And I really hope, I don't know any of the other short film nominations for the Oscars. I haven't gone and looked at the list. But I so thoroughly hope that they win an Oscar for this short film because it is so brilliant. It is written and directed by Julia Axe and Steve Pinder. I will leave links to their website where they host this film. It's on YouTube as well, but I will leave a link to their website so you can go and read the whole about and see the team that worked on it and everything. I will leave that in the description below, as well as a link to a interview that they did on director's notes, which is also really interesting, and if you want to know more, you can obviously go and listen to that. This period drama, it is definitely a play on words, okay? It's such a brilliant play on words, which is very in keeping, I think, with Jane Austen, because she was very brilliant at her wordplay and really good at insulting people. She was, I think, the most prolific insulter of all time. If you can give her that accolade, I would give her that accolade. She's certainly the most creative insulter of all time, or that, at least that I have come across to date. But I thoroughly recommend going and watching this short film. It's also really beautifully shot. The cinematography is really beautiful. If you go and look at the screenshots or the thumbnails, whatever you want to call it, of the movie that they have on, I think they have it on their website, potentially. If not, it's on the director's notes website. I don't remember where I saw it. But it's so beautiful. And it just makes me happy. So those are all of the Jane Austen book and film related, peripheral, inspired by pieces of media that I have consumed so far this year. But fear not, because the rest of the year is still going to be a Jane Austen year for me. I'm even considering reading more Jane Austen novels this year, but we'll get to that at the end of this. If you are in any way Jane Austen inclined, you probably already know about these things, but I'm going to tell you about them anyway because I'm excited and I want you to be excited with me. That Netflix has commissioned a new miniseries version of Pride and Prejudice. Everybody has their favorite Pride and Prejudice, and I will admit, I have only ever seen the 2005 version with Keira Knightley and Rosamund Pike. And now I can't remember the other people's names, but they will come to me at some point. But I've only ever seen that version. I have always wanted to see the 1996 version, is it? With Colin Firth and Jennifer L, among others. But I've only so far seen the one. Maybe I will watch the original miniseries, if you will. It's not the original one, but the 1990s miniseries before the new Netflix version comes out. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll go crazy and just watch them all. But anyway, so Netflix has commissioned a new Pride and Prejudice miniseries. It is coming out in September. I think on September... Actually, I might be lying to you. I am lying to you. We don't know when it's coming out yet, but probably, hopefully, by the end of the year. Hopefully it doesn't roll over into next year, but I'm fairly certain it will be released sometime this year. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited about this miniseries. Obviously, a lot of people are skeptical, as they were probably when they were doing a remake of Pride and Prejudice in 2005. But I'm just going to watch it and see how I feel about it. So it stars, excitingly, it stars Emma Corrin as Lizzie Bennet, Olivia Colman as Mrs. Bennet, Rufus Sewell as Mr. Bennet, Fiona Shaw as Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Mind blown. I'm so excited to see that. And a bunch of other people as all the other roles. But those are, I want to say, the most famous people. Or at least the people that I know. Only the people that I know of. And so that's that. And then, also later this year, in September, this is the one that's being released in September, I believe in the US it will be released on September 11th, and in the UK it will be released on September 25th in theatres, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it's going to be in cinemas. A new version of Sense and Sensibility. Another movie version of Sense and Sensibility, starring, among others, Katrina Balfe as Mrs. Dashwood of Outlander fame. It also stars Daisy Edgar Jones as Eleanor Dashwood, and then Esme Creed Miles as Marianne Dashwood. I don't think I've seen her in anything before. And then Bodhi Ray Bretnock, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, as Margaret Dashwood. And then a whole bunch of other people, but most excitingly also a Fiona Shaw, again, as Mrs. Jennings. My favourite character in Sense and Sensibility, Mrs. Jennings. Actually, I lie. In the book, Mrs. Jennings kind of annoyed me. I learned to love her. I started to learn to love her further into the book. But in the movie version, I loved Mrs. Jennings. So now, to see Fiona Shaw in 2 Jane Austen adaptations in the span of 1 year, and both times playing who I'm consider to be the most interesting and fun characters, is going to be a hoot. And I actually am really interested to see how different the 2 characters are going to be from each other. Obviously, Lady Catherine de Bourgh and Mrs. Jennings are nothing alike in the books. But I want to see what Fiona Shaw does with them. I'm really actually super excited that she's playing both of these roles. If you couldn't tell, I really like Fiona Shaw. I think she's a brilliant actress. Then, again, further Dashwooding, further Benneting, more Benneting. I discovered, actually I've known about this book for quite some time, but I kind of forgot about it and then rediscovered it this year through my Jane Austen obsession, and that is The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. This book has been on my radar for a little while. I don't remember when it was published, but I think not too long ago, but I've seen it on bookshelves before somewhere, and I've always been intrigued by it because it is about Mary Bennet, the quiet Bennet sister, the one who always just keeps to herself and is reading her book, and pretty much does nothing throughout the entirety of Pride and Prejudice other than read. Watching Miss Austen kind of gave me a little bit of insight into Mary Bennet, because apparently, we don't know how much of this is true, obviously, because Miss Austen is fiction, and it's not, as far as I know, that much based in fact, since what survives of Jane Austen's private correspondence is so little. But her brother, Edward, was that his name? One of her brothers married a woman called Mary, and so Mary became Cassandra and Jane's sister. In Miss Austen, it is portrayed that Mary is not a very likable character, and that both Cassandra and Jane didn't get along with her that well. And so when Jane wrote Pride and Prejudice, she named the character, or the sister, Mary, after her own sister Mary, and made her very dull, because they didn't find their own sister Mary very interesting. But I'm interested in Mary because I think she could be quite an interesting character. And so Janice Hadlow has taken it upon herself to create a version of Mary's potential life story. And I'm interested to read the book. But also, fate would have it that this year also a miniseries, or a series if you want, called The Other Bennet Sister, based on this book, is released, starring, among others, Richard E. Grant as Mr. Bennet. I don't think you could have cast a better person as Mr. Bennet than Richard E. Grant. Ruth Jones as Mrs. Bennet, and then Ella Brucolari as Mary Bennet. And a whole bunch of other people in other roles. Also, Tanya Reynolds, who, if you've seen the Decameron, which is on Netflix, or if you've seen Sex Education, you will recognize Tanya Reynolds. She is Caroline Bingley. And then there's a whole bunch of, obviously all the other sisters and the other side characters are also in this series. But obviously I don't know very much about it since I've not yet read the book. But when I do read the book, and I have the book on my e-reader, I have a copy of the book. Once I finish reading the book, I can then watch the series and be really excited about it. And actually, I'm interested to see if there are any differences between the book and the series, because both of them are technically fan fiction, if you will. And I wonder if there are going to be major differences between the book and the series. I didn't think of that before now, but it's going to be interesting, I think, to say the least. And then, almost lastly, I was once again, as I like to do, scrolling down Keeley Hawes' IMDb page, and I spotted something. I always like to go and look at the upcoming projects that people are working on according to IMDb. Obviously IMDb doesn't know everything, but once something kind of gets announced, or once the creators of a project put their project onto IMDb, obviously you can see who's going to be in it if they have officially attached any actors to the thing. And according to Keeley Hawes' IMDb page, they are making a second series of Miss Austen, or another series of Miss Austen, called Miss Austen Returns. And she, Keeley Hawes, will be reprising her role as Cassandra Austen in the adaptation. And I'm kind of in two minds about this, because where the first series ends off, it was a mini-series, so it kind of was not meant to continue. It was meant to only be one series. And where this series leaves off is actually really the perfect ending to that story, because it tells you the whole story that it said it was going to. And where it ends is a very fitting and satisfactory ending, in my mind. So now, on IMDb it says this series is in development, which can mean that it will never come to fruition. It can mean that it actually will never happen. But I don't know. I think it actually will happen, and I'm again in two minds about it, because the way that the first series ended was the perfect end to that story. But I love the characters so much that I wouldn't mind seeing more of what their lives looks like, whether that be after the point where the first series left off, or whether it is that they're going to take the story in a completely new direction and tell a completely different story. I'm up for that as well, because I really like the characters, and I really like the actors and the production and everything. I think it's a really well made script or series. I think it's a really well made series, and I really like the actors, and I also like the characters that they play. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if this thing actually ever comes to fruition. But if it does, you can bet your bottom dollar I will watch it. And then I will probably tell you my thoughts and opinions on it. Very lastly, I hinted at the beginning of this video that I was considering reading more Jane Austen novels. And now, because I'm in such a Jane Austen state of mind right now, I'm so excited to kind of read all of her works, if you will, or all of her novels, her big works. And I kind of want to jump in to Emma right now. But then I also have hesitations because I already know that I'm going to be reading so many classics this year. And there are so many other books that I'm also really excited about on my bookshelf, waiting to be read, that I am like, should I just hold off on reading more Jane Austen and then decide to make next year the year that I read more of Jane Austen's novels? But then I also think, if I'm excited about it now, why shouldn't I read it now? Why shouldn't I, throw caution to the wind and actually follow my heart and read the books that I'm excited about? Because it could be that I read Emma and then I decide, actually, screw that, I'm done with Jane Austen, I don't want to read any more Jane Austen novels this year, and then I could go back to the other books on my bookshelf. Or I could read Emma and then decide, I'm excited, and I'm going to read Persuasion, and I'm going to read Northanger Abbey, and I'm going to read Mansfield Park. Somehow in my mind, Jane Austen wrote Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma, Persuasion, and Northanger Abbey. I always forget about Mansfield Park, even though I think Mansfield Park was the third book she published. I'm pretty sure. I think she published Sense and Sensibility first, to be quite honest. I think Sense and Sensibility was published first and then Pride and Prejudice. I think. I could be incorrect. And then Mansfield Park and then Emma. Or maybe then Mansfield Park and then Persuasion and then Emma. Anyway, 2 of her books were published posthumously anyway. And I think Northanger Abbey is the one that was published posthumously, but I don't know which one was the other one. I think Persuasion. So I think Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Mansfield Park, and Emma were published in her lifetime. I should go do more research. Also, I have a bunch of Jane Austen biographies, or like Jane Austen adjacent biographies, on my want to read list. There's specifically Jane Austen at Home by Lucy Worsley, and then there's Jane Austen's Bookshelf by, I don't remember the woman's name right now, Jane Austen's Bookshelf by Rebecca Romney, that I've had on my want to read list for a really long time actually. And now that I'm in this Jane Austen mood, I'm kind of want to read more about Jane Austen's life and learn about herself and her sisters and her family life and all of those kinds of things. But again, I'm faced with the dilemma that there are already so many other books on my bookshelf that I need to read. I also imposed that book buying ban on myself this year, that I'm only allowed to buy 10 books this year. And I already have 5 books that I'm excited about that I want to buy and read this year, and then I also have still 5 of my classic books that I need to buy because I don't own them yet. So my 10 books are technically used up already. And if I go and buy Jane Austen memoirs and biographies, I'm going over my buying goal, or my buying allowance. So as you can tell, I'm in a bit of a pickle. I've dug myself into a hole here, and I really can't get out of it. Maybe one day I'll just wake up and this obsession will have vanished in the night, and I will be freed. But until then, I'm going to ponder about my life choices, all the options available to me, and stay excited for more Jane Austen and Jane Austen related media, books, and everything for the rest of the year. And I hope you do too. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to my rambles about Jane Austen, and all of her dramas that I have found myself in this year. As, again, I will leave all of the related things that I've spoken about linked in the description, for in case I have excited you through my excitement and you want to go and check these things out for yourself. I highly recommend that you do, but if not, that's also fine. And I will still be here if you want to come back for more. So, to round all of this out, once again, thank you for being here. And I will see you all again in the next video soon. Cheers.